Welcome back, Guardian. Before we get started, I just want to say a huge thanks to all you Guardians that support this channel, all the viewers, all the sponsors, the people that make things for the channel. On top of that, it's all because of you that this hobby is turning into somewhat of a legit channel now. I love building in this game. It started off as a hobby, and I'm glad that it's picking up and a lot of you are enjoying the builds that I make and the time that it takes to actually put them together and calculate them all. So thanks, bros. Let's talk about Fury Solar Titan build. Let's start it off with the stats first. So if you haven't watched my traction build video, you should watch that so you understand what traction does. It's not actually a 537 build, it's actually 637 because traction behaves one more point higher than what the mobility actually says. Check that video out if you need more convincing or proof about it. But this solar bottom tree is the tree that I recommend using with this build just because of the mortar blast causing explosions, these sunspots that you get from this build with the endless siege, and the healing properties that it has. Sun Warrior passing through your sunspot increases your ability recharge, it makes your super last longer, and you can throw more hammers faster while you're inside of it. And just the healing property especially is really beast with this as well. Hallowfire Heart is the exotic that we're going to be building with. That's the one we're going to be trying to balance out to get the highest mobility, the highest recovery, as well as the highest recharge available, so nothing is wasted. The grenade that I recommend is Thermite Grenade. It can do another job while you're taking care of other things. It lasts longer, it can tag more targets basically, and that's why I like the Thermite Grenade as well as the Void Wall Grenade for the Void class. But let's talk about the armor, the perks, mods, the stats, all of this to balance it all out. So the fastest super recharge perk in the game right now is Pump Action and Light Reactor. Check out the Power of Rusto Builds video if you want to see the tests that actually go into all this stuff. Kind of just get a glimpse of some of the things that I do. But 0 mobility, 1 resilience, 2 recovery. Use a grenade charge mod and whatever scavenger you want. The menagerie mods that you see on these builds, don't worry about those. Use whatever you want for the menagerie mods. Just copy everything else on top of that. For your arms, there's going to be 2 options here. One is the 111 with Enhanced Impact Induction. The melee mod is on both options. But what Enhanced Impact Induction does is it gives you 8 seconds off your grenade when you do a melee hit, and it has a 6-second cooldown. As you can see right there, I used it to top off my grenade to get it to recharge my health. You're always going to be doing melees in the game, so having Impact Induction is way better than having a reload perk. Even if you have a slower reloading gun, I just find it way more useful to have Impact Induction than to save that tenth of a second reload speed that most of the reload perks even give you in this game. I always find the Impact Induction way more useful, and like I said, you're always going to be doing melees in this game. It's just something that you can't really avoid, and you can't really not like meleeing because there's always going to be enemies in your face. Now the other option you're going to have for this, if you don't have this and want to go for 8 recovery and not do as much mobility, is do this but use the Enhanced Impact Induction version, but those stats on the right, the 0 mobility, 1 resilience, and 2 recovery, that'll give you 8 recovery but only 5 mobility. I wanted to get a little bit more mobility though. Now for the Hallowfire Heart, 2 mobility, 1 resilience, and 2 recovery. What Hallowfire does is when your supers charge, abilities recharge a lot faster, and when it's not charged, they still charge fast. So here's an example. If you have like a standstill target, something you can't really get a sunspot on, once you get Fury all put together, the longest grenade you'll have is 14 seconds, the longest melee you'll have is 16 seconds, and the fastest grenade in melee you'll have is 8 seconds, mixing in the Impact Induction with your full supercharge inside of a sunspot. It's pretty ridiculous to have, especially when you're in a run and gun combat scenario where recharges are most crucial to keep you in the fight and to keep you beasting and destroying all kinds of targets. Hallowfire is just really nasty over Heart of Inmost Light. I like it way better. Moving on to the leg piece, it should show 3 mobility here, but like I said, Traction has a hidden perk and it doesn't actually show it. It only shows the 2 mobility, but it's actually 3 mobility and then 2 recovery, or like you see it right here, use an impact mod on it and whatever finder or scavenger you want, as well as for the rest of the gear as well. And finally for the mark, a grenade charge mod, always recuperation because you're always making orbs, you're always going to be healing yourself with that to keep you in the fight, whatever reserve or scavenger that you choose to use. Now as far as your armaments, if you choose to use armaments or in a situation where you need to use taken or fallen armaments, apply the armaments, and then what you're going to do is switch it out and then go to the arm piece, the second one we talked about earlier to get the more recovery, use the same impact mod, but apply those so you can still maintain a 7 recovery. Take the recovery mod off the chest piece, and then put your grenade mod that you lost by taking armaments on the chest piece. This way you can keep the same stats, mods, and perks with the armaments on at the same time. Here is where you can screenshot the build in case you don't want to come back and watch the video over again. You can just take a screenshot right now. That way you have it stored on your phone or whatever, and you can just pull it out when you're trying to piece it all together. Now let's put the build to work and go over some of these recharge rates. So how to achieve the fastest recharge rates with this build is just how you're going to see right here. Throw the grenade out, proc the impact induction, you get the sunspot, so you start getting that charge going. It lasts for 5 seconds when you walk away from the sunspot, but the 5 seconds is all you need to get your grenade back and to get your melee back, and voila, it's ready to go again. I'll show it to you one more time. Throw the grenade out, then pop the melee against somebody for the enhanced impact induction. It doesn't fully stack because 8 seconds is all it takes to get your grenade back, and it's understandable, which would result in a 0 charge grenade time. Now let's talk about modifiers. Grenadier or Brawler or Grenadier, however you like to say it. Now when you have this procced, it doesn't matter if Grenadier or Brawler is on, the recharge rate would be the same, but in this case Brawler's on, and when you don't have a supercharged, the recharge rate will be 5 seconds, and then whenever your super is charged, it is around 2 seconds to get your melee or your grenade back, as long as you have a sunspot to stand in, as well as Grenadier or Brawler turned on. Like as you see right here, as soon as I do the melee, it's automatically back by the time I get to the next person to melee. And like I said, that would be the same thing if Grenadier was on and I hit somebody with a grenade and get the sunspot charge on it. It'd be a 2-second grenade over and over and over again. Or if my super is not charged, it'd be a 5-second grenade. That's how crucial it is to stack those mods the way that they are, because it doesn't matter if these modifiers are on or not, your recharge rates are still between 2 and 8 seconds, or the longest being 14 seconds if your super's not charged and you're just relying on 2 grenade charge mods and the 2 melee mods. That's why they're balanced the way that they are, because it doesn't matter if modifiers are on or not. Your recovery time, your recharge time, all this stuff is just tailored exactly how it needs to be. And the reason that I opted for the 7 recovery is because I have the ability to heal myself off the grenade or the melee kills. So win-win situation. I don't have to focus so much on recovery. I can afford to have excellent recharge rates by adding more mods and still maintaining the 7 recovery because of the stats on the armor. One of the main things that I focus on when I do builds is how does it function in a Nightfall challenge solo or the solo Q and strike speed killing that way. But one thing that I like to do is drop my light and then crank up the difficulty by adding more modifiers and things like that, and then try to find out where I'm lacking at and then fill it back with mods to kind of tailor and tune the build to where in run and gun there's nothing you're ever without. So if you need a grenade, you got a grenade. You need a melee, you got a melee. If you need recovery, you got recovery. And then mobility is always the final thing. And like I said, I opted for the 7 recovery and the 6 mobility to try to get as much mobility as I could with this build. Because I had those healing properties, I was able to afford both of them, kind of. I couldn't get to the 7 mobility, but I got close enough. I was at 6 without being lower than a 7 recovery. So that's kind of the things you have to think about, is putting as much recharge rate as you can without going below a 7 recovery. And then like I said, some exotics, depending on what the exotic and what the stats naturally are on that exotic, some can fit the mobility in, some can't. It just really depends. But what's most important is making sure you're recovering when you're hit and that you have abilities to hit back with. And that's what this build was all about, is getting the recharge rate back as well as getting some decent recovery so I can keep flying through these hard adds that would kill me in like 1 or 2 shots. And Hallowfire Heart gives you everything that you need in run and gun, and that's why I like the solar bottom tree the best, is because of those recharge rates and the healing property that it offers. If you're choosing to use the top tree, I recommend using the clutch command build because it's more support class focused on the melee ability for the melting point for the entire team. Getting that back fast and doing more damage when you're doing that is more crucial by having clutch command on. But if you're going to use Hallowfire, it just makes the most sense to either go mid tree or bottom tree, preferably bottom tree, but it's really just kind of your own play style at that point. The recharge rates are still going to be around 14 seconds, but it's really going to depend on if you want to do with the 8-second grenades and get the healing properties with your abilities. Even though mid tree does have the hammer you can throw to heal you as well, it's just really going to be what you prefer at that point. I just liked the bottom tree the best because I felt like it was more fun for run and gun just because of the ability recharge. and it kind of makes it to where you don't even care when your super's charged because you're not really going to use it because you want to just get the Hallowfire recharge so much. Another cool thing you can do with your barricade is you can blind knights such as this right here, throw your grenade down, and they just keep jumping over them over and over again, and they kind of just stay put, blinding themselves in your barricade. Hallowfire Heart will not increase the recharge rate of your barricade, only the melee, the super, and the grenades. When you go from doing Nightfall Challenge solos or solos in general to regular game activities such as this strike right here, it makes this build run over everything because you can just take so many more hits. You know from coming from a Nightfall Challenge solo how many hits you can take because AI are much weaker. Even in regular Menagerie, they seem so weak in comparison. Even the Heroic Menagerie, when you do a Nightfall Challenge, don't hit nearly as hard, and it helps you out when you come to those in-game activities by doing practices on like Nightfall solo challenges. A lot of people think raiding makes you a better player, but actually doing Nightfall solo challenges by dropping your light and cranking the difficulty teaches you way more about movement than what a raid and its mechanics will teach you. A raid is nothing but mechanics. It's the same AI fight that you have in the entire game, it's just you have a mechanic to do with the AI battle. But when you practice movement and how to have insight and things you can and can't do when you're against ads that can one-shot you all the time, you think a lot differently about the game, and you become more of a beast because you've been in these tough situations so much from practice that when you're in the regular game, such as raids or anything, they just become a walk in the park. The battle part does. It's just, like I said, the mechanics of a raid is all you're learning from a raid. It's not teaching you how to fight better because it's the same fight as doing Menagerie or doing anything. It's just the same kind of ads in a raid mixed with that one mechanic. But training yourself to move and beast and make sure every shot counts and every strat you do and movement you do matters, because when you're doing Nightfall Challenge solos, if you've ever watched me live stream and playing with friends doing them, stuff like that, one wrong move equals death, and you get so much more freedom to move around in regular strikes or even regular in-game activity. You can take a lot more hits than you can when you're doing those Nightfall Challenge solos. So that's why I recommend people trying those out, because they do teach you a lot that you can't learn anywhere else but when you're on your own. But Guardians, that is it, man. That is the Fury 2.0. I hope you enjoy it. Beast Squad, appreciate all you bros as well. Shout out to Dade Freeman, who's also responsible for the banner on my channel. Really cool guy, man, going out of his way to customize that stuff for me. Huge shout out to him. Thanks for doing that. D-Beck, Burnament, Psylocke, Nomad, Greasy Chip Buddy, all you bros, I appreciate it, man. All the viewers out there, all the supporters of the channel, the donators, dudes, y'all are the ones that make all this happen. Icarus Gambit, new subscriber as well, new sponsor. Huge shout out to you as well, man. I really appreciate what you're doing for this channel, turning a hobby into a somewhat of a minor career. Not really a full-on, but it's getting there, Guardians. That's all I can say, man. I didn't ever think it would come to this, but enjoy Solstice of Heroes coming up, depending on when you're watching this video. My name is Ristophilus, and I will see you all next time.
In space.